There is always a house that gets the most gossip in the neighborhood. And that's what happened to this house in Germantown, Tennessee. A family bought the house and thought it would be a perfect place to have their own place. But then something unexpected happened and their plan went south. It all started with a strange sound. When the family moved to Tennessee and saw the friendly neighborhood, they believed they had finally found a good place to start a peaceful and happy family life. The house was beautiful and everything seemed great. It was technically not a new house, but it was not too old either. The house seemed perfect, but had a problem that the family could not stand. Since the house was not new, they had expected creaking floors or dripping water taps. However, the property had obviously been renovated a bit to attract buyers, which made it look good. However, there was only a strange noise that they kept hearing, but they hoped it would go away in a day or two. But things were not that simple. Usually, it is quite easy to find the source when there is a noise in the house, but what happened to the family was much more complex. They couldn't tell where the noises came from or what kind of noises they were. After a while, the family couldn't sleep well, and they even began to think that the house could be traced. Well, there must be something wrong with the house, but what was it? One thing the family was sure about was that the noise was coming from the walls. They thought a rat might be stuck between the sheet metal and the outer bricks because the sound could move. They soon realized that it was not just one animal, but a large number of them, which made them more than a little scared. At this point, they decided to call for professional help. The family thought it must be the rats, so they called a pest control service. After the professionals had been there for a while to find out where the noises were coming from, they marked the walls and pumped in as much pesticide as they could. There was no doubt that whatever lived between the walls would die or run away. The family thought they could finally sleep well, but that was only a hope. To everyone's surprise, the sounds did not fade and the family became desperate. What could it be if pesticides couldn't kill it? Was it actually something supernatural? The noise was even louder than before, which meant that whatever they were, they had become bigger. The louder the noises became, the more they sounded like humming. The family decided to find more clues before asking for additional help. The family had thought when they heard the humming, so they went outside for a thorough check to confirm their acceptance. A family member found a bee crawling around the window, and it all seemed to make sense. But how do you fix it? What can they do to the bees, and who can they turn to? Bees are important creatures for the environment, so the family did not want to kill them. However, it can be dangerous to remove a colony of bees, so they decided to call a professional beekeeper in the hope that he could solve the problem. David Glover was one of the best beekeepers in the neighborhood, which made him the perfect person to come in, remove these bees, and find them a new home. Well, at least that was the plan. David was known as the Bartlett Bee Whisperer because of his affinity for bees, which also meant that he was very careful in his work. He decided to give the house a full inspection so that he could work out the best solution. David changed into his beekeeper's suit and used a thermal imaging camera to locate heat sources in the walls. What he found shocked everyone. Everyone, including David, expected to see a small area with red lights, but the entire house lit up. Since the camera was working well, this meant that there were heat sources all over the walls. With so many bees stuck there, the house would not take it so well and bees could be in danger too. What would David do? Since the house was not very new, tearing down these walls can cause real property damage. Meanwhile, bees are delicate creatures and careless actions can easily kill them. With a heart that wanted to help the family and a deep love for bees, David began to ask himself, could he really help? When David started to remove some bricks, the narrow gap between brick and concrete made things even more difficult. But when he saw that the hive was intact and the bees seemed healthy and thriving, David felt a great relief. But how to get them out without hurting the bees and the house? The family assured David that there was no need to worry about renovation or anything as long as the noise problem was gone. So David continued to carefully remove bricks. He didn't want to disturb the hive too much, otherwise it could cause unnecessary bee problems for the whole neighborhood. It was a hard job, but the bee expert continued with the right methods until he discovered something unusual. The more bricks David removed, the better he had the view between these walls. Then he found some dead bees on the ground, killed by the pesticide that had been pumped in before he took the job. When David was sad about these bees, he took a closer look at them, and he realized that there was a bigger problem than removing the hive. Unfortunately, the pesticide had killed the queen bee. Usually, when a hive misses the queen bee, bees become aggressive and the colony will soon become extinct. Fortunately, these bees remained somehow calm, which gave David a little bit more time to solve the problem. But first, he had to find them a new queen. Unlike the bees, which remained surprisingly quiet, there was something special about the beehive. It has two gigantic combs. It is so rare because they usually produce only small combs. But this colony had two huge combs. The new discovery fascinated David but also made him think. How many bees were there? Depending on the size of the combs and the beehive, David estimated that there were about 35,000 bees in this small space. With such a large number, it is usually not so difficult to collect them because they tend to stay close to the hive. To make sure that he got every bee in this place, David decided to use a special tool. Believe it or not, David used a vacuum to trap these bees in the bag without hurting them. Despite how dangerous it might seem, the professional knew what he was doing. This method allows bees to continue breathing during transport. The next thing David had to consider was where to relocate them. The resettlement of bees was a process. The first step was to allow these bees to take up their new homes after being transported to a new location. Then David found a queen bee from his own colonies and put her in the hive. Everything depended on whether the bees would accept the new queen. If not, they would die, but there was nothing else he could do but wait. Fortunately, the colony welcomed the new queen bee, which meant that David not only saved these bees and helped the family, but also kept his own queen bee alive. 6 months later, David shared an update on the busy guys that they're all doing very well.